Hail, and welcome to another episode of Heathen Hearth, the show where we make recipes inspired by the historic and ethnographic imagination. This week, we're making a recipe with burdock. It's going to be very interesting because this is a real paleo recipe, a recipe that might have been made and eaten in Paleolithic Europe. It's also a recipe that would not be out of place in ancient Japan. Recipe, here are the ingredients. Of course, we've got some water here, and the reason we have water is because this is going to be a steamed recipe. We're going to be cooking it in the Instant Pot. Obviously, this is not the way that it was cooked in ancient Japan or Paleolithic Europe. However, steaming is a very old form of cooking. One of the reasons for that is it actually predates pottery. And also too, of course, necessarily iron cookware as well. That's why I have this here. These are actually corn husks. Now, of course, corn is a domesticated crop, so it is not paleo. However, one of the things about it is this is standing in for burdock leaf. Burdock, of which we have the root, also has a very large leaf. It can be used to wrap foods for steaming purposes. I don't have burdock leaf because it doesn't dry well. It is something that you have to use fresh if you're planning on wrapping it up for steaming purposes. So instead I have these corn husks which have been soaked in water. So that's it for the cooking method. Now the ingredients. The ingredients are very simple here. We have this is burdock root. You can see that it's rather woody. This is a cross section of a top of a root. Now, closer to the bottom of the root, the burdock doesn't have a gap like that. It's extremely woody, as I mentioned, and fibrous. So what you want to do when you're preparing it is to, I peeled it. In Japan, where this is used as a common ingredient in modern times, they usually just wash it. However, I peeled it and I cut it here. As you can see, this is a peeled piece of the peeled root, and I cut it on the bias. That way that I can cut across as many of the fibers as possible. And then I laid out the pieces in this direction, and I julienned them into small slices. So here's an example of the julienned burdock. One of the things that happens is you'll notice that in this burdock here, it's of a darker color. And those are specific types of tannins that oxidize with the air, and they have a lot of iron in them, and they taste very muddy. They don't taste that great. Some of the taste does remain, and so it has a bit of that earthy taste that beets do, but it comes from a different chemical. The way to avoid it tasting muddy and disgusting, however, is to soak your shredded or julienne burdock in water for at least 5 to 10 minutes. And if you want to make it taste even better and less of that earthy taste, all you need to do is change the water several times. This has been soaking for more than an hour, and I've changed the water 3 times. Another ingredient here, it has been ground up a little already. I forgot to leave an entire one, but this is a chestnut. Chestnut species live around the world, just like burdock. They have a very, very wide range, and humans have used them for countless millennia. One of the things about chestnuts is that they have a bit of a sweet flavor, and but they are starchy as well. Chestnuts too are interesting because they haven't really been changed that much by domestication. There's a few, they're almost in their wild form as we still eat them, even in woods where silviculture is practiced. We also have here an onion, and this is a specific type of onion in Japanese called nira, in Korean buchu. And it is right here in its full form. You can see it's fairly fibrous leaves, and it looks a lot like a grass. It doesn't have the bulb. You eat the leaves of this onion plant. Also, too, there's many different types of onions that live around the world. The reason I selected this one is because it's a lot like wild onion species that might have been available for to hunter-gatherers. All of these ingredients here are obviously common to Japan, North Korea, North China. Those are areas where all of these are currently native to and growing. But Paleolithic Europe had species that were very comparable to these, and so the flavors would have been fairly close. So we can imagine that this type of dish, this type of vegetable dish, could have been served all the way from 50,000 years ago in Europe up until around up until the present day, actually. However, as a prepared dish, it probably wouldn't have been prepared in this way much after the formation of the Japanese state. So these types of ingredients and cooking methods could have been used by the Homon people or Jomon people. The queen Himiko around the year, 200 Common Era, formed the nascent Japanese state, and they were eating this type of food at that time. A little side note about the chestnuts. Chestnuts were actually eaten by early samurai before they went into battle. It was believed to give them luck and courage in battle. So I don't know what the symbolism of these foods would have had in Paleolithic Europe. However, nowadays, these have very clear symbolism in Korean and Japanese culture. The burdock root is associated with home cooking and family and the warmth of winter. And the chestnut, as I've mentioned, already has the associations of valor. In Europe, chestnuts are associated with Yule. However, that's in the southern parts of Europe. So maybe you have some of your own ideas. All right, so these are the ingredients, and now we're going to get to arranging them into packages with the corn husks here. I've got laid out my corn husks here. These corn husks have been soaking in warm water for, I don't know, about half an hour. And so I have the large ones here, and I've taken a couple of the smaller corn husks and I have ripped them into shreds. These will be the ties we're going to be using. And now I'm just going to be mixing the items together in little packets. Great. So there's our first one, as you can see. We're just going to do, I'll just do the rest of them like that as well. The Instant Pot's set up here, and you'll see that I finished off doing the packets. That amount gave me, what is this? What have we got here? 6 of them. They're pretty small, so that was about a fifth of the bunch of buchu or niora, the onion, and I used maybe 4 stalks of gobo. Not stalks, sorry, 4 roots of gobo that were about that big. And then the amount of chestnuts was around 150 grams of chestnuts, so it was pretty well 10, 12 chestnuts that I used. So I've got the water going into the pot for steaming. Next, I'm going to put a short trivet in, just to keep the, you can see it just comes to the very bottom of the pot. The water comes to the very bottom of the trivet there. So I'm going to put 3 on one level, and so as not to crowd them, I'm just going to make another level with a tall trivet. Of course, these would have just been stacked up. Now, if you're thinking about how they would have been made by the Japanese, Of course, there's in ancient Japan, they would have been using pottery vessels to steam, and then probably had bamboo vessels or pottery vessels with that were perforated to steam the items on top. In Paleolithic times, what would happen was you would take a fire and you would burn it down on top of stones with stones in it. Then you would take take some branches and brush away the embers and the ash, so you just had a layer of stones. Then you take some wet vegetation, you throw that onto the stones to start creating steam. You throw down your packets, and then you put another layer of wet vegetation over the top. If you would like to steam them for a very long period of time, what you do is you cut turves of grass and put the grass side down, dirt side up, and bury it then. And then you'd uncover it, and then you'd have your little packets of steamed items. So what I'm going to do is shut this up and start the steaming process. My Instant Pot is off right now, so I'll just keep it on the keep warm setting here. Now I'm putting the lid on, sealing it up. You can't see it here, but I'm pushing the vent to sealing mode, and I'm going to put it on manual, and you'll see it's high pressure there, and it's at 30 minutes. I don't think it needs that much. We're going to put it at 20. I would like to cook this quite well because the burdock is fairly fibrous. So this is the equivalent of at least an hour of regular steaming at low pressure. There we go. Now let's wait for it. It's been 19 minutes since the cooking stopped, and I've been letting the pressure release naturally, but I think we'll do a quick release now and release the rest of the pressure. So here is the top of the Instant Pot. As you can see, we are currently on sealing mode. I'm going to change it to venting mode. And the pin's down already, so it doesn't really matter. So let's back up a bit here, and I will open the pot. There we go. Beautiful steam packages. The smell is quite good. It's got a bit of a nutty aroma, sort of meaty smelling actually too. Quite good. Well, I'll get these out. Well, now's the moment of truth. Time for a taste test. Smell this. It smells, it's got a vegetable-y smell. Very earthy. Don't smell any of the corn from the husk. And the onion smell is almost gone. It might be something that only lasts if you have it when it's relatively fresh. Might have, under the pressure and steaming, gotten rid of it. So I'll try a little bit. The burdock gives it a sweetness. A little bit of a sweetness, like perhaps a parsnip. Maybe that's just because of the color, but the chestnut also has a bit of a sweetness to it. But the chestnut has a flowery taste, not like flowers, but like a grain flour. And the onion though is almost all gone like that. I think I would mix it in maybe near the end, but the chestnut and the burdock is very has a starchy taste too. So it's a lot like a sort of a potato or something along those lines as well. It's quite good. I didn't add any salt to it because it was a paleo dish, and people who didn't live near the coast had a difficult time getting salt. But for our modern palates, I think salt would definitely brighten this up. A little bit of seasoning. And it's a lot softer than I was expecting. And this is something that the early Japanese or Paleolithic peoples could have eaten. It's quite good. It's not a survival food. It's quite yummy. Just really needs that salt and maybe a fresher sprinkling of onions on it. So that's it for this week. This was actually a vegan paleo recipe. Until next time, keep cooking. I hope you liked that video. Please give it a thumbs up down below, and I'd love to hear your comments as well. Also too, remember to subscribe to my channel and hit the bell so you get notifications. You might like this video as well, so check it out. There's also playlists, so you can check those out as well. Until next time, keep cooking.